Good morning. Good morning. Today we're going to be taking a look at the XRP price action, some liquidations, and the Sigma coin. So, all right, we had a great reaction yesterday off the lows after a pullback and back test to the -2 deviation on the 4-hour. And you can see, as we've placed this VWAP right here, you can see how absolutely reactive this has been to the different levels of what we're looking for as far as the confluence of this being a extremely reactive price, kind of liquidity value that gives us a lot of pivot points associated with the chart here. So we had a -3 deviation, a breakout, a perfect tag right here. Look at that. I mean, just gorgeous, of the fair market value, a back test to the -1, -2 deviations. This is now 95% away from that white line. A breakout back above the region, but it kind of came up short. And it hit this fib, as you can see right here, this 618 fib, a rejection back test of the -2. And now we're getting ready to move higher. And the biggest thing that I wanted to kind of reference here on this particular chart here is what levels are we looking at for potential issues moving forward on this. So we already know that our fair market value at this level is a very reactive one. And then we have these additional fib levels that have kind of played out here. And note that the +2 deviations and this fib level are right next to each other. So the biggest thing that we want to make sure that we don't, what we want to see is a continuation, right? So if this is in fact the beginning of our 5-wave move to the upside, we want to see a nice solid pass through of this region and then maybe something along those lines, right, for our next leg out of here. And we can just kind of expect that this pivot point here in the middle doesn't get a reaction that's negative. Now, alternatively, this could in fact be an ABC. So we could have a wave 1 move off the lows, a wave 2, and then this would be an ABC back up, and maybe we only get up to right there. So we're going to be watching $2.519 as the potential area where this could be in fact a reversal and an ABC up rather than the 5-wave move to the upside that we're looking for. So this is what we're expecting. This is what we're thinking is going to ultimately manifest. But we are cognizant of the fact that we may have that ABC structure that's going to play out. So this is our first key level, +1 deviations, and $2.519 is the level that we're watching after we get done with this back test. And it may even go lower on this -1 deviation because there's this gap that they may want to fill. So we will find out which universe we live in. But the good news is this is up and this is up. So both are up. So right now the up is the bet, right? So we're just waiting for this consolidation to play, and we're going to run to see which of these two worlds we live in, that one or this one. So I like that one, so I'll leave it there. All right, now let's have a discussion about what this structure is here thus far, right? So what we've been able to identify is that this is the completion of the 5-wave move to the downside, or the flat that we've been playing out with. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then here's this ended up being wave 3's completion. Then there's a wave 4 completion here and a 5th that finishes down here. So ultimately this is a larger degree completions like so. Okay, so there's your 5-wave move to the downside on the flat that we've been playing on, ultimately giving us now an expectation that we are going to do wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, and get up in here, and hopefully even maybe wave 3 just blasts through and takes us all the way up to that level, right? So we're going to be watching these key levels as we move forward, but so far fairly reactive to these fibs. You can see again, fair market value, -2, hit the fib, back test the -1, and now we're going to start working our way higher. So, all right, so that's basically where we are. We've completed the 5-wave move to the downside here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now there may be, of course, one more rollover, so we're open to that as we're down here at the bottom, but so far so good. This is how I'm counting our flat structure. Okay, now using this content from others, we have their analysis of a fractal here. So let's zoom in and see what this fractal looks like, right? So they're comparing what we're currently doing before the little bull flag setup here that we just did to a potential just ABC breakout here, right? Okay, so they're saying, hey, watch out, this could in fact be an ABC, and totally valid because that's exactly what we discussed. If we cannot surpass 2.519 and we start rolling over, well, that was the ABC, right? So very valid, very accurate. And they're referencing this area in time here with the Trump response, and then a further breakdown, and then a continuation of a breakdown. Okay, so let's go to context of what this was time period wise. So we zoom out zoom in on that, and here we are. So here is the structure that is being utilized to show that there may be a continuation of another WXYZ correction to the downside here, where we do a WXY. This was an ABC down, ABC up, ABC down. Okay, so it's a larger complex structure, which is why it's labeled as the WXY play out here. And here's this ABC up, right? So this ABC up manifests, it shows up right there. It does it after a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave move down, ABC up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave move down. And if we look at this ultimately, what we're seeing is this is a, this ends up being just a ABC, right? So you just have a 5 wave move to the downside, and let's move this around a little bit, there you go. And this one was a little squirrely, and then you have an ABC in the middle, and you go with an ABC, and then we do another ABC, because why not? And actually, you know what, let me get that back here. Yes, that's perfect. So we have the 5 wave move to the downside, and then we end up having a larger ABC. So we have a ABC structure here for the X leg, and then we end up having another 5 wave move down to the downside, where we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it does it with a lot of cross here through this whole region, and that's why the crossing ultimately ends up being the triple zigzag, or I'm sorry, the WXY complex structure, because there is so much potential different little mini structures through here. So that's the context. Okay, now we come back to this. So we say, well, this was the completion of the A leg. This is then your B leg, and we're going to go down to the C. So the B is what we're thinking is going to play in here, but if we scoot back over to the right here, we're not looking for an ABC, because we've already done an ABC move down, an ABC move up, right? Because this is our flat, and now we've done the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're looking for the completion of the 5 waves to the downside, which, as of right now, could be a very valid count. And in fact, we were thinking we had one more leg down to complete the final 5th, but it got front ran, is how I'm working off of this right now. So ultimately, that's the setup, and that's the trade, is that this 5 wave move to the downside is the completion of a flat structure, not the continuation of a additional Y leg. So that's really ultimately, hopefully, helpful to you, why this particular fractal and this area of time, the context prior to it really matters. So you can look at a liquidation and say, okay, well, that liquidated, great. This liquidates, great. Okay. We then do, an ABC off the lows for this larger ABC. So so basically, if this portion of the wick wasn't here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is what we have here. Then you do an ABC up and a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now we're working our way out of here with a wave 1, wave 2. And so, or just a straight impulse. And so ultimately, it's not the same context. This is only halfway through the measured move, and this is actually a completely different area that we're working through. So hopefully that helps people with just the content that's floating out there. Just really, truly, you must have the context before it to confirm whether or not what your fractal is doing is valid. And so hopefully that's helpful for what we're seeing here on the XRP price action. Now liquidation, we've got lots of play here. They got some of the late longs here just this morning, so they wicked down, got this batch of liquidity. We have quite a bit of liquidity on the 24-hour below, but we also have some liquidity stacking up above. I believe it's the 3-day. Let's see if the 48 gives it to us. We also, 48 doesn't show, maybe the 3 days the winner. But the biggest thing is we have lots of leverage being played out all over the place, and it's just going to be more and more chop as this happens. But here's your 12-hour, right back up to 336. So my thoughts are of what we're experiencing on the short time frames as we zoom in. So now we have a kind of a macro view of what we're looking at, but there may still be some play in this whole thing. So when we zoom back in here and we look at what the structure is that we're doing, this is giving us an ABC down, right? So we have our 5-wave move to the downside, a triangle for this, and and then another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-wave move to the downside. So this is technically done now, but we must remember that these will often sometimes give us a flat, right? So we end up then doing an ABC up move, right? And we know the liquidity is back up in here, so maybe we get only up to this region, or maybe we even go a little bit higher and we get up to that fair market value move, okay? And we clear a new high, but then we have to come back and do an aggressive 5-wave move to the downside to complete this gap close and give us a wave 1 and 2 and a 1 and 2 of the next degree, or maybe this was just the completion of the fifth, and now we've technically done our wave 1 and 2 because this was truncated and we didn't go and set the new low because it got front ran. So this gap is what we're watching here ultimately. Keep in mind this view is what we have potentially in play here, and so a squeeze to the upside back to fair market value in the 241 would check with the liquidity pushing us up into this region, into the 240s, right, as we get a squeeze. But then we zoom back out to the 24, and we can see that all the late longs might need to be punished. So they might need to take it down and get this gap in efficiency and push us back down to 210. So sweep up, hit into the 230s, and then smack back down. And this would be probably what I think is going to play here over the weekend. Yay and aw, you know. And so, but this would just be your larger wave 1, wave 2. So this is what I'm watching for. This is what I'm cognizant of. And if it happens well before this level here, then that would mean that we'd have a larger 1-2 degree, which we would then adjust our trend-based fib to this guy, because this is, it's still in my thoughts are that this is the finishing fifth wave. So so basically that's how we're looking at it. And with that, we finally have Sigma. So Sigma is been able to complete its the same type of idea, right? So here's your 5-wave move to the upside, ABC down, ABC up, looks like it's doing good, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave down, closing all that gap. This would be very similar to this ABC down, ABC up, 5-wave move to downside, closing this gap, just like we're seeing here on the Sigma chart play out. Now we have the bounce, the higher low, the impulse, the bull flag. So hopefully we don't have to do all this back testing, but this is an example of how that would look right here on the Sigma coin. We'd be looking for something like this and then the breakdown. So so basically like this. So this is how I'm not ruling this out in my mind. We'll watch momentum indicators, we'll watch levels, and we'll watch to see if we start turning over. So but you know, again, ultimate is that we're just doing this over here. Let's just do this and we don't have to mess with it. But inefficiencies like to be closed. So this is how you would probably do it to wreck both sides over the weekend with a low liquidity. So all right, let's see what else to tell you. Yeah, that's pretty much what we got here this morning. So to recap, we've got Sigma showing a great reaction off the lows. It looks like its correction is now done and is working out of here. You've got the liquidity on both sides, which means that a flat is probably in play to clear everybody out. You've got yourself wrong context being utilized for an additional leg down for a larger WXYZ correction, which was right here. But in reality, we're not in that game. We're over here, and we're doing a 5-wave move to the downside with a potential breakout. So, but again, we're going to watch price action and levels. And then finally, this is a potential flat setup play. So, you know, we'll see if that flat ends up coming. And if it does, then don't be surprised. It's actually an opportunity. So once we start grinding out of here, just put your stops below the price action. And then if we get stopped out, then you just wait for the better entry, and it gives you another opportunity to rotate back in and get more. So, all right. So hopefully that was helpful this morning, and we will check in tomorrow. Thanks for watching.